Hey everybody, what is going on? Maxx here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So, to sort of thank you all for putting up with me cooking with more rogue builds a lot this week, namely Sprite decks, I decided to give you all a more meta deck for today's video. We're coming back to Superheavy Samurai. I can hear the groans already. Now, this deck has actually received a bit of an update from the last selection pack that I haven't covered yet, and that is the ability to use Crimson Dragon to summon everyone's actual favorite level 12 Synchro monster, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. One thing that I thought was really interesting was the fact that, as Superheavy Samurai came into Master Duel, this was the build that everyone is really hyping up as going to be, like, awful to play against, and that would be everywhere. And we have definitely seen Superheavy Samurai with King Calamity put in at least a decent bit of work in paper play, but when it comes to Master Duel, it's been well over a month, maybe not well over a month, maybe just a little over a month at this point, since the release of Crimson Dragon, and I gotta say, this particular iteration of Superheavy Samurai seems to be still by far the least popular. Again, everyone was super hyping up this deck dropping Calamity and how much of a problem that was going to be, but from what I can tell just looking at builds and how often they're represented in both ladder and tournaments, it still seems that the standard combo build and even the FTK build are going to be more popular, or at least are played more from what I can observe in the data I've seen, than the Calamity build. But I wanted to give the Calamity build a spin for myself to see how I liked it, see how I thought it stacked up to previous Superheavy Samurai builds that I've played. I've not played the FTK version, to be fair, with like the Dark Strike Fighter and the Galaxy Queen's Light and all that fun stuff. I have only really played the standard kind of combo build. I've tried it with and without Scythe Lock, with and without Ballista and the Gearbox, and I gotta say, this iteration, I don't know, it's like, it feels a bit windward to go into Calamity, and I think that's the reason that we're not seeing this particular build of Superheavy Samurai as often as the others, right? Because really, the Calamity combo line is pretty much the exact same as like the standard combo line, but the idea is that towards the end, rather than end on more negates like Borload or put up a disruption like the Saratobi, right? Instead we are, or making like an Appaloosa for example, we are instead just pivoting into the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Now, we don't spend all of our resources just turboing this out. We do also get to make Elf and Baron on that end board to kind of help protect our combo line and make sure that our Calamity is going to resolve. But really what it comes down to for me is that, like, if you're going to do a Calamity lock, you can already do the standard combo line anyway, and it's true that you don't have to play anything different in your main deck to Calamity lock, but you do have to devote at least 2 extra deck slots to the Crimson Dragon and the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. And there are some combo lines where you might also end up needing Tilting Entertainment. I didn't personally have any situations where I needed this card to go into a Calamity lock, but if I recall correctly, I think if you open Superheavy Samurai Wagon and nothing else, you do have to end up making this card. For those of you who are wondering what this card is, it's a generic level 8 Synchro that upon Synchro Summon, you can special a level 4 lower Pendulum monster from your hand or face up from your extra deck, and that's the effect that we are caring about here, right? Basically, the idea is that if you have, you can make this and then grab the Prodigy Wakaushi that got put face up in the extra deck because it left the field, and then special summon it and then go for a level 12 Synchro, like your Crimson Dragon. Could also go for your Superheavy Samurai Brave Masaru this way as well if you wanted to. So, I think losing at least 2, but even 3 in my case, extra deck slots for the Calamity lock is kind of the main reason to not want to play it. Because again, the Calamity lock only comes up towards the end of your standard combo line, and if you're at that point anyway, you're probably just going to win the duel with all of your negates and stuff that you've made. I will say that the Calamity lock does have some number of advantages. The big advantage that it has over other kind of, just setups and boards you can have with a bunch of negates is that it's a lot better against most board breakers, right? I'm thinking like Dark Ruler No More, Kaijus, evenly matched. The Calamity does actually play better against those than your standard combo line will. The problem is, in best of 1 ranked ladder, you're not going to see, well, especially at higher ranks, you're not going to see as many of those kinds of board breakers. People are more apt to be on Droplet, which does actually work against King Calamity. Or I can, at least, has potential to. Or not, whether not King Calamity, but usually more like the Crimson Dragon effect, right? That's usually what they'll try to disrupt or like chain to. So, but that's one of the reasons why having protection like Baron and Elf can help, but if it's Droplet, it might not be enough. So I'm actually trying to remember, and I should know this. Droplet doesn't target, right? Because that would be the main thing. Yeah, it's because it says choose, of course. So, yeah, Elf won't help protect you against that. So the combo line is still vulnerable to Droplet, which, again, is just going to be the most prominent board breaker you're probably going to see in Best of 1 ranked ladders. So, I think for me, the verdict is this build with the Calamity lock is very slightly less optimal than a standard build. I don't have any experience with the FTK build, so I couldn't tell you if that one's actually better or not. But yeah, I think in the future when I play this deck, I'll probably just use a standard combo build over the Calamity lock. But I am still going to show you how to Calamity lock with this deck. We'll show that off in our first duel for this video. And of course, we have some other games that we're going to show off here as well. I guess I should probably talk about the fact that Soul Piercer got semi-limited. I literally almost forgot, because it is really not the most noticeable. Really, the main way it's come up for me, and even then this hasn't really even been an issue, it's just something I've noticed, is that some combo lines do use 2 Soul Piercer, right? Sometimes you use one at the very end, you might pull it out from the deck with the Wakaushi, which might make follow-up plays like slightly more awkward, but yeah, I don't know. As far as like how your combo line plays, and honestly, even as far as how you build your Super Heavy Samurai deck, this card going from 3 to 2 just does not really change anything. But again, in some grind games, you might actually end up noticing this. Might. It's a big maybe. But we're still rocking like 19 hand traps. Oh, speaking of the hand traps, Droll and Lockbird and Ghost Ogre are noticeably missing here. I've instead elected to max out on DD Crow and Ghost Spell, well, DD Crow and Ghost Spell, to help, because they're not only good against the mirror, which I didn't really expect to see that much of, but they're particularly good against Snake Eye as well. I, funnily enough, in my climb up from 12 to 17, using both this and Sprite Synchro, I didn't see like any Snake Eye. I saw like maybe one Snake Eye deck, although to be fair, the people who are really grinding with Snake Eye have probably already hit DL level max, right? Or Duelist level max, whatever, so. Okay, I think that does now cover everything I wanted to say about this build, so I'm going to break it down card by card, and then we'll see some games. We are playing 1 Cypherane driver, 3 DD Crow, 3 Effect Veiler, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Soul Horns, 2 Super Heavy Samurai Soul Peacemaker, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Stealthy, 3 Maxx C, 2 Cypherane Gear Gamma, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Motorbike, we got 3 Ash Blossom and a Joyous Spring, 3 Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Scales, 2 Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercer, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Wagon, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Soul Gaia Booster, 1 Therion King Regulus, 2 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, and then 2 Super Heavy Samurai Monk Big Benki. That'll do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Ninja Star Toby, 1 Boardload Savage Dragon, 1 Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, 1 Tilting Entertainment, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Brave Musararo, 1 Crimson Dragon, 1 number 41 Baguska, the terribly tired Tapir, 1 Divine Arsenal, Zeus, Sky Thunder, 2 Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow, 1 Cleefort Genius, and then 1 Sprite Elf. And that'll do it for our deck. Let's see these duels now. Okay, so our first opponent, well, for this first game, I'm going to show you how to do the Calamity lock. I don't actually know what my first opponent was playing, not just because it's a Duelist Cup. I did actually write down the decks ahead of time this time, because I, used my brain, but we were not going to really get to see them get to play that many cards here. So Yeah, to do the Calamity lock, it's, again, the combo line that you're going to do is pretty much, for the most part, the same standard combo line. So in that regard, you just need to open any one of Motorbike or Wakaushi or Soul Piercer or Wagon, and then you can do the line. I think if you use Wagon, it's a little bit different, but not that I noticed when I was playing the game. So we're going to Motorbike for Wakaushi, Wakaushi F to set up the Big Benki and then summon itself. Big Benki is going to add the Soul Piercer. We then get to normal summon Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercer. Link it off for our, what's it called? The Scarecrow, of course. How could I forget? Soul Piercer effect is going to activate. We're going to want to add Soul Peacemaker first. Scarecrow is going to activate. We don't need Nib, so I can pitch it. Bring back Soul Piercer. It's going to sync with the Wakaushi to go for the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Okay, now we can use Soul Piercer effects as well as the Excel Synchro Stardust, and of course our Wakaushi effect. I like chain blocking with Wakaushi at the end, because it's the hardest effect to chain to with like a hand trap, right? So, bringing back the Motorbike, and then Soul Piercer is going to add a second to Wakaushi. You do need to add a second to Wakaushi. We're going to need it later when we Pendulum Summon. So, going to Synchro Summon for the Baron de Fleur. After that, we're going to equip Soul Peacemaker to our Scarecrow, and then activate the effect, attributing it to summon out the Scales from our deck. Scales is going to pull out the Soul Pierce from the graveyard once again. We're going to link it off with the Scales in order to make the Cleafort Genius. This will activate not only the Cleafort Genius effect, but of course also the Soul... Well, Cleafort Genius, sorry, that'll get activated here in a moment. At this point... sorry, I'm going to just pause for a moment. So I use Soul Piercer to add the Soul Gaia booster here, and I'm going to use that to go for my combo line to make the Crimson Dragon. But again, if you wanted to, you could also use the Tilting Entertainment potentially instead, right? So I'm going to Pendulum Summon the Wakaushi as well as Super Heavy Samurai Wagon. It doesn't need to be exactly Wagon, but I like having a Wagon. If I hadn't opened with it, right, if I'd only opened Motorbike, I probably would have grabbed Wagon instead of Soul Gaia Booster here. I like summoning out the Wagon under the Cleafort Genius zone, specifically in attack mode, for two main reasons. One, we get to chain block the Cleafort Genius search with the Wagon effect to turn itself to defense mode. Two, the Wagon's going to turn itself back to attack mode here in a moment to get another search. We're not going to need it, but it's nice to have. So Cleafort Genius is going to want to grab the Therion King Regulus. We're going to special Regulus and equip the Soul Piercer from the graveyard. Baron is going to pop the Soul Piercer. Soul Piercer is going to add... I'm going to get stealthy here. If you didn't already have Soul Gaia Booster, you can grab that. But from this moment on, the searches that I'm going to do are not really going to super matter as far as, like, you know, making our board, right? Okay, so now, like I said, I'm going to use Wagon to add... I'll just add Soul Horns. Again, I'm not going to need it in the long run here. I'm next going to link off the Genius and the Wagon for Sprite Elf. I'm going to use Elf Effect to bring back the Motorbike. Now I'm going to activate Motorbike, but I'm actually going to activate it on Regulus, bumping its level up to 10. We'll keep the Baron on the board for an Omni Negate, but we're not keeping the Regulus. I'm actually about to synchro with it here with the Motorbike, and that's how I'm going to end up summoning my Crimson Dragon. Now, this is very important that we put the Crimson Dragon under the Elf zone so that way it's target protected. That way, in case my opponent top decks like an Imperm or something, they're not able to use it against the Crimson Dragon. Basically, just make sure the Wakaushi is not in this middle zone here, because if it is, then you're not going to be able to put the Crimson Dragon here, and then you can't give it target protection. So your placement does matter here. If you're really confused about the placement and you want to follow this combo line, just put everything in the same zones that I did. But again, the main thing you're going to want to know is to not have Wakaushi block up the Elf zone, so that way Crimson Dragon can be target protected by it. Okay, now I'm going to use the Wakaushi effect to summon out my other Soul Piercer from the deck. Soul Gaia Booster is also going to activate to summon itself here. And then now I can sync for 12. That's going to make the Brave Musaruro. And we get one final search. I'll just grab a Motorbike just to keep my options open for follow-up turn. If there even is a follow-up turn, but there probably won't be. To be fair, if you look at Calamity here as it's summoned, I think it'll show it here. Yeah, it's 84.2% win rate at time of appearance. So there are 16% of games where this card is summoned and then the person summoning it loses. So it definitely does not hurt to kind of keep that in mind. I guess some amount of a backup plan. Again, the Motorbike is going to be that for us in this case. But yeah, I mean, this is it. This is a pretty standard turn one setup for this style of Super Heavy Samurai deck. featuring the Calamity lock, right? Again, putting that Crimson Dragon in the Elf zone so that way it gets target protected. We also have a target protected Baron de Fleur, whose Omni Negate can help insulate the combo line. We're doing this during the opponent's draw phase, by the way. We summoned out the Calamity during their draw phase, so they wouldn't have a chance to, like, you know, Dark Reload or Morph before we got to do anything, right? We even have the Brave Musaro, which not only represents the 4k damage by being able to attack with its defense points, but in the right situation, it might even draw you some cards as well. And it definitely helps to have other hand traps to back us up here too. Yeah, again, didn't see anything at all from the opponent, mostly thanks to our Calamity. So yeah, like I said, I wanted to, for our first duel, show off how to Calamity lock with this deck. So there's how to do it. And again, you even have the protection of target protection from Elf and the Omni of Baron to help make sure that combo line goes off there. But it would definitely be boring if all of our duels were just me doing this turn 1 every time. So let's see some more games that are a bit more engaging. Alright, so our next opponent is going to be on Trap Tricks, and we're actually going to be going second against them. Going second against Trap Tricks or any background based deck, this is something a lot of people like to do, but especially if you're playing a long form combo deck like this. So alright, we opened Valor and Gamma for going second, so that's definitely not too shabby. Opponents go to normal summon Pudica, and I activate Effect Valor here, and not Cypher Gear Gamma. There is actually a very specific reason for that, right? This effect here, to add Trap Trick Garden from deck to hand, isn't like the most scary thing that Trap Tricks is going to do, but it does give them a lot of extension if they are able to get that. So I want to Valor this, but I also know they can just link this off for Sarah, so that's the reason I'm keeping the Gamba around, right? Especially if they have like the Julieta, the trap card that's like treated as a monster, right? If they start doing that, then I can definitely eat their Sarah with the Gamma, and then that would be so good. As predicted, the Pudica will link off into a Sarah, but opponent's just going to set 2 before passing over to me. So, but again, I actually wanted to save Gamma also even for a situation like this, even if they don't make follow-up plays or use a Sarah on their turn. There's a lot of scenarios where I could see myself like even putting a monster on the board and then having it get removed by a trap card, that'll proc the Sarah, which I could then potentially eat with Gamma. So another reason why I Valored and not Gammaed. Another reason, of course, that Valor can only be used on the opponent's turn, but again, Gamma I could still potentially end up using on it this turn. So opponent's going to Imperm the Wagon, our normal summon. Definitely not a place you want to be in, especially as Sarah is going to proc here. While I have a monster on the field, that means that Gamma can't do anything there. So we're going to link off the Wagon into a Scarecrow. Scarecrow F, I'm going to pitch these Soul Horns here and bring back the Wagon. Now I get to use Wagon's effect to try to get a search here, but the opponent's actually going to drop an Ash Blossom on me. So as you can see, we're getting disrupted. Nothing's going to plan. I don't have Soul Piercer or Rakaushi in hand, but I do have this little card here, Soul Peacemaker, which I've actually even thought about including a third copy of for situations like this, right? Alright, so we've had our Wagon ashed and impermed. Funnily enough, I also want to point this out too, real quick. My opponent definitely used Imperm way early before, right? They used it when the effect on Summon activated. They should have waited for the Search effect. If they'd Imperm the Search effect, then I wouldn't have been able to try to use it again on the same turn, because that effect is only once per turn. The Summon effect is just whatever it's summoned, but the Search effect is literally only once per turn, right? And it's a hard once per turn. So my opponent could have potentially saved the Ash Blossom there, and then actually used it against this Soul Peacemaker instead to stop my combo line. Had they done that, by the way, then I would have equipped the Soul Gaia booster to the Wagon, special summoned it, overlaid for Baguska, battled, and then summoned Zeus and wiped the board. So even though my opponent did concede here, well, and also because they misplayed the Imperm against the Wagon, right? Even if they had played it correctly, we still would have had a game plan. And, you know, I talked about this in yesterday's video? No, the other day's video, the This Week in Master Duel, right? Because there was that write-up on Master Duel meta that called Superheavy Samurai skillless, and this kind of situation, this game state, is exactly the reason why I vehemently disagreed with them, right? It's so easy, right? It's so easy to only remember the times where you face off against the stack and they do the combo line, and you didn't have disruption, and it's like, oh, all they do is follow the combo guide to make an end board. It's like, yeah, when things go right, but what if you have disruption? Or what if, I don't know, we lose the coin flip, something that happens 50% of the time. It's like, you have to know what your deck is capable of beyond the standard combo line, which is very much a skill in and of itself. I mean, there are also skills, even if you play out a standard combo line, as we discussed in Math Mech in the past, as far as like utilizing the negates of your end board. Again, what does writing off this deck as skillless help you as far as growing as a duelist? Nothing. Literally nothing. By acknowledging the skill that it does take, you not only prepare yourself to play this deck better, but also play against it better, just acknowledging the varied lines that they are able to do. Rather than you shotgunning a droll, they play anyway because they know this deck well, and then you still complain that this deck is unfair. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the next duel. Okay, so this opponent is going to be on Superheavy. Oh, sorry, we're playing Superheavy Samurai. Oh, that's good. This opponent's playing Sword Soul. Alright, we are going to take the first turn, but this hand is looking really awkward. But it's not completely devoid of plays. Well, until my opponent activated a Maxx C here. So this is definitely another situation that this deck definitely does not like to be in, right? Not only did we open a non-optimal hand here, but in addition to that, now we're going to get Seed. So, what do? You might wonder. Well, I'm going to activate Big Benki and grab Soul Piercer. And I'm just going to pass, right? I think a lot of people kind of have this as like their big question for like players who are using big combo decks, right? And it's like, okay, so what do you do if they resolve a Maxx C? And it's like, sometimes you just lose, right? Or it's like, not even necessarily lose, but you just don't play out your line. I think a lot of people don't view that as a valid option, but it's not only a completely valid option, more often than not, it's just the right one, right? I think some people here would have been like, oh, well, you could link off the Soul Horns and then summon the Link one and then summon Regulus and equip the Soul Horns and have an Omni. And it's true that I could do that, but that also gives my opponent 2 draws. And in a format where we have Snake Eye, which is like a 1-card combo line deck, I don't want to give them 2 draws. I mean, to be fair, we have a lot of 1-card combo line decks in this meta, and that's why I don't want to give them 2 draws for 1 Omni negate. I think that it tends not to be worth it. I do also have a Maxx C of my own, so we do have that going for us. By the way, if you're wondering what I would have done if we had not gotten Maxx C here, I would have still activated Big Benki for Soul Piercer. I could have equipped Soul Piercer to the Soul Gaia booster, or the Soul Horns rather, linked them off for the, what's it called, Scarecrow, discarded Driver to bring back Soul Piercer. Oh, I would have gotten a Search as well. To search for Soul Peacemaker, right? Brought back my Soul Piercer, equipped Soul Peacemaker to the Scarecrow, gotten Wakaushi to the field, and then probably just synced for... Well, I would have to search Motorbike, and that... Yeah, I'd have to search Motorbike and then use that to grab Soul Peacemaker. But anyway, enough about the hypothetical lines. Let's see how this duel actually played out. They're going to start the long gun. I'm going to use my Maxx C here, of course, but they are, spoiler, they're going to have a Called by the Grave for it. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to get too deep into a hypothetical combo line, but I also wanted to demonstrate that, like, this hand that looked dead would have absolutely had plays. And that's another way in which, of course, this deck does take skill, which, like, duh, of course it does, is that, like, hey, what if you don't open a typical hand, right? You still gotta make plays, so... Anyway, we're going to eat the burn here. Our opponent's going to use the Baron on the Big Benki, and then battle over the Soul Horns. Popping the Big Benki there is like, I mean, I get why they did it because I have Soul Piercer. Although, to be fair, if you know I already have Soul Piercer in hand anyway, it might be better to keep Big Benki on the field, because with Big Benki in play, I actually can't use Wakaushi's Pendulum effect, but now that it's gone, I can, so... yeah, thankfully the opponent didn't have any more follow-up. They do have another Maxx C, but I guess they forgot that they called by mine last turn, so, haha. Let's laugh at that for a sec. We have 1 Omni to play through. I can just force it with the Regulus. If they didn't negate the Regulus effect, then I could use Regulus's Omni on my opponent's Omni, right? But yeah, in addition to already having the Soul Piercer, which by itself was enough to find lethal here, we also top decked the Wakaushi, so we actually just literally have everything here, right? I'm going to Wakaushi for the Big Benki. Big Benki will add the Peacemaker. I can then normal the Soul Piercer, go for the Scarecrow. Soul Piercer F to grab a Motorbike. I can use the Motorbike to grab another Wakaushi. We definitely do want a Motorbike for the Wakaushi here. And that's also why I corrected myself earlier in the hypothetical line when I said search for Soul Peacemaker. No, sorry. Search for Motorbike for Soul Peacemaker. The reason you need to work Motorbike into the combo line is so that, of course, you can bring it back with the Excel Stardust and then make your Barrel and Defleur. Pretty easy discard of the driver here for the Scarecrow, sinking the Wakaushi and the Soul Piercer for the Excel Synchro Stardust. I mean, at this point, yeah, we're just doing... The combo line here is pretty much going to be the same as, like, the turn 1 combo line, because it's definitely going to generate enough damage to find lethal here. Not only that, but it also, like, gets rid of our opponent's Baron with our Baron, and then also has an Omni in case my opponent's last card is Nibiru. And I think, yeah, at this point they just concede. So, cool. That was easy enough. Well, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't like the most easy thing in the world. But, yeah, I think there are a lot of people who don't see as, like, just passing against Maxx C as, like, a really valid play. But I think it is. And I think the majority... Like, I see so many people playing into turn 1 Maxx Cs. Like, not just, like, watching other games, but, like, also people playing against me. In situations where they really should not be doing that. Again, it seems really counterintuitive to just pass with whatever first monster you normal summoned and not give your opponent any draws at all. But I think, especially in this format, where your opponent is pretty reasonably likely to top deck a 1-card combo if they need it, then that is what you should be doing. Again, it also is very situation to situation. So, I think we have, one more game to show. So let's take a look at that. Okay, our final opponent is going to be playing Blackwing, and this is going to be another game in which we Calamity lock, but I'm going to show you Calamity locking through a little bit of disruption. Not a lot, but a little bit. Alright, as you can see, we have the Soul Piercer here, which by itself is enough to do our full combo line, including making our Calamity. We're going to normal it and link it off for the Scarecrow. Going to activate the effect, but opponent's got an Ash Blossom, so yikes. You know, against the first search, that is actually pretty good. And if you have Ash Blossom, it might seem like this card is useless against Superheavy Samurai, but if you use it against their first Soul Piercer search or the Motorbike search, very occasionally, that is actually enough to stop them. Not a lot of the time, but very occasionally. And it might look that way with a hand like this, but again, this Soul Peacemaker, I kind of want to play a third copy. This card has, like, saved me so many times, and it in general will just bail you out of a lot of situations, right? Because that's the thing, too, you know, you can't link off the Scarecrow as a material, and making a second Scarecrow in the main monster zone is, like... You could do that, but it would be really, really awkward. So Soul Peacemaker definitely saved us here. Going for the Genius a little bit early. Same for the Scales. I'm just having to do my combo in a little bit of an out of order here. As you can see, now I'm going to Motorbike for the Wakaushi, placing the Wakaushi and activating the effect to place the Big Banky, summoning the Wakaushi to the field, Big Banky F, to add the Soul Piercer. I can equip a Soul Piercer even if I can't normal summon it. I still have a level 4 non-tuner on the field. So I can still make the Excel Stardust and also get the Soul Piercer search here. So yeah, I mean, this is another way in which, like, I would definitely say this deck takes skill. And I'm not saying Superheavy Samurai is, like, the most skillful deck in the world. Not at all. Not making that argument, but I think to call it skill-less is not only extremely disingenuous, but you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that. Again, how do you actually improve as a duelist by calling a deck like this skill-less? You don't. There's literally no way it helps you improve. In fact, it is actually at your detriment to do so. I believe that you will, more times than not, end up just not being as skilled of a player, again, if you're just going to write off decks as skill-less and just not exercise any amount of brain power to think about how they function, and in turn, how you can counter them. So here I'm going to use my Superheavy Samurai Stealthy with the Cleafort Genius in order to make the Sprite Elf. This way I can use the Elf to bring back the Motorbike. Motorbike's going to bump up the Regulus level. Because I did things out of order, I'm actually not able to put the Crimson Dragon under the Elf, which is not ideal, but also not the end of the world. Gonna use Wakaushi, give up my last card for a Wagon. I even get a free little search here, because why not? Just grab the Soul Peacemaker, because, again, why not? Going for the Brave Masuraro. And then, yeah, as you can see, even though we got Ash Blossomed, and at a point that it looked like it was devastating, we still pulled off literally the exact same combo line. We just had to do it in a different order, so... Alright, there we go. Calamity has resolved. Opponent's going to normal summon and then set 3. There's not really much else they can do, to be fair, before passing over to me. Not going to be too much more in this game. I'm just going to use the Baron to get rid of one of their back rows, and then just move to battle. Calamity has like the Flame Wingman effect, where it does damage equal to the attack of whatever it destroys, so that's always 4k right there. With Calamity, if you battle an attack mode monster. And yeah, like I said, we have far more than enough damage in play to then finish our opponent off. So there we go. There is probably one of the more disgusting decks I've played on the channel, as far as, you know, just turboing out Calamity with a deck that people don't like. But, you know, I'm sure people are gonna, like, wonder if, like, what I think about Calamity. I think the card should definitely get banned, even if it's not optimal, right? It just creates non-game states. There is an actually pretty interesting, you know, discussion point of, is Calamity the problem, or is Crimson Dragon the problem? Because Calamity, yeah, has a really devastating effect, but if used on your turn like intended, it's really not that big of a deal for your opponent. It just means they can't, like, disrupt you, right? But it is, in fact, Crimson Dragon that is spitting it out on the opponent's turn at a time when it is not intended to be played. So one could make the argument that Crimson Dragon potentially might be the enabler here, kind of like Halcyon Tuners or like Albion Sanctifier and locking cards, right? So I don't know, maybe Crimson Dragon's the right hit and not Calamity. I think that's definitely a discussion that is worth having. I guess, to be fair, there are other ways to make Calamity on your opponent's turn with, like, Formula Synchron or something, but, like, at that point, that's such a specific setup, you know, that, I don't know, you would definitely have to be trying a lot more than just, again, making Crimson Dragon with another level 12 Synchro in play. In either case, I do think that Crimson Dragon into Calamity is not something that should be legal, even if it's not optimal. Yeah, so that's just my 2 cents on it. That's going to do it for this video. Let us move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details, again, will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page, where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs, as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.